Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. The rumble of the train echoed faintly through the quiet countryside as Kane Ashby leaned back in his seat, studying the man sitting across from him. Daniel Romalotti looked exhausted, not physically, though the stress had certainly taken its toll, but emotionally. The kind of exhaustion that came from too many betrayals and too many impossible choices. Kane folded his hands. "Daniel," he said calmly, "you know why I asked you here." Daniel gave a dry laugh. "Yeah, I have a pretty good idea." Outside the window, the landscape rushed past in a blur of gray winter trees. Kane leaned forward. "Your mother needs you." Daniel's expression hardened instantly. "No," he replied flatly, "she doesn't need me, she needs power." Kane expected the pushback, in fact, he had counted on it. "Phyllis is heartbroken." Daniel shook his head in disbelief. "You actually believe that?" "I know it," Kane insisted. Daniel stared at him for a long moment before speaking again. "You want me to forgive her?" "Oh, yes. And suddenly everything will magically get better?" Daniel scoffed. "Come on, Kane." Kane didn't flinch. "Something changed when you and Summer cut her off." Daniel rolled his eyes. "Oh, please." "I'm serious," Kane pressed. "Phyllis didn't expect that." Daniel leaned back, frustration rising in his voice. "She didn't expect consequences, you mean?" Kane sighed. "You think this is about control," he said quietly. "It is about control." Daniel's jaw tightened as he continued. "She took Newman, she's firing people, she's threatening everyone who doesn't fall in line." Kane nodded slowly. "Yes, but she's also alone." Daniel let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, good." The word hung in the air like a slap. Kane watched him carefully. "You don't mean that." Daniel didn't respond immediately. For a moment, he stared out the train window. Then he said quietly, "She chose this." Kane leaned forward again. "I did the same thing once." Daniel glanced at him. "Oh, what?" "I chased the brass ring," Kane admitted. "Power, influence, winning at all costs." He paused. "And when everyone turned their back on me, it nearly destroyed me." Daniel looked unconvinced. Kane continued. "When your family abandons you, it changes something inside you." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "So now she's the victim." "I know, because that's what it sounds like." Kane shook his head. "She made mistakes, huge ones." Daniel scoffed again. "That's putting it lightly." "But that doesn't mean she deserves to lose her children forever." Daniel's voice rose slightly. "She didn't lose us." Kane held his gaze. "You disowned her." The words landed like a punch. Daniel stiffened. For several seconds, neither man spoke. Finally, Daniel muttered, "She left us no choice." Kane spoke gently. "Or maybe she thought she had no choice either." Daniel shook his head. "Look, I get what you're trying to do." Do you?" "You want me to forgive her," Daniel said, "because if I do, she'll give Newman back." Kane remained silent. Daniel continued, "And Victor will release Lily." There it was. The real agenda. Kane exhaled slowly. "If Phyllis keeps Newman," he admitted, "she'll never let it go." Daniel pointed at him. "So I'm right." Kane didn't deny it. But he also didn't back down. "Daniel, I'm asking you to talk to her." "Why?" "Because if there's even a small chance this can be fixed, don't you owe it to yourself to try?" Daniel looked away again. Outside the train window, the sky was growing darker. "I don't know if I can," he admitted quietly. Kane nodded. "That's all I'm asking." Miles away, tension hung thick in the air at the Newman ranch. Victoria paced the living room while Nikki sat anxiously on the sofa. Victor Newman stood near the fireplace, calm as ever. But the storm brewing inside the family was impossible to ignore. Victoria stopped packing. Nick was talking about vigilante justice. Nikki frowned. "He wouldn't." "He would," Victoria interrupted. Victor remained silent. Then suddenly, The front door opened. All three of them turned. Nick Newman walked inside. Victoria froze. Oh, Nick. Nikki rushed toward him. Oh my God. She hugged him tightly. Where have you been? Nick gave a tired smile. Off the radar. Victoria crossed her arms. That was obvious. Nick looked at his father. I had to. Victor studied him. Why? So you couldn't talk me out of my plans. Nikki gasped. You actually went through with it. Nick nodded. I flew to Los Angeles. Victoria's eyes widened. Looking for Matt Clark. Oh, yes. And? Nick sighed. He's gone. Victor's expression darkened. Explain. He vanished, Nick said, completely underground. Nikki shook her head. You could have gotten arrested. Victoria agreed. Or worse. Nick shrugged. Worth the risk. Victor finally spoke. This isn't over. Nick nodded. I know. Victor's voice dropped. This is the calm before the storm. Nick met his gaze. But we don't know when it hits. Victoria folded her arms. Well, while you were chasing ghosts in LA, things here got worse. Nick frowned. What happened? Victoria answered bluntly. Phyllis. Nick groaned. And of course. She's firing people, Victoria continued, anyone loyal to us. Nick looked toward Victor. And you're just letting her. Victor smiled slightly. I have a plan. Victoria groaned. Oh no. Nikki leaned forward eagerly. What plan? Victor shook his head. You don't need the details. Victor, Nikki insisted. It has nothing to do with Lily. That caught Victoria's attention. Then what is it? Victor's smile widened slightly. A strategy I should have used from the beginning. Nick crossed his arms. And when does this grand plan happen? Victor looked toward the window. Soon. Across town, another drama was unfolding. Sally Spectra stepped out of Billy Abbott's bedroom and paused in the hallway. She stared down at her hand. Fatting ink. 3 simple words written across her palm. I love you. The letters were beginning to blur. Billy walked out behind her. You're staring at it again. Sally sighed. It's fatting. Billy shrugged. So maybe that's a sign. Billy raised an eyebrow. A sign of what? That this won't last. Billy stepped closer. You're having second thoughts. Sally turned toward him. No, but I'm not going through this again. Billy's expression softened. You mean the lyings? Oh, yes. Billy raised his hands. I swear. Sally narrowed her eyes. You said that before. I mean it this time. She studied him carefully. You're not lying to me again. No. Billy grinned. My fingers aren't even crossed. Sally laughed slightly. She looked down at her hand again. Billy gently took it. If the ink fades, we'll just tattoo it. Sally smiled. That's ridiculous. Is it? Billy leaned closer. I love you. Sally whispered back. I love you too. They kissed. For a moment, everything felt perfect. Until the doorbell rang. Billy groaned. Seriously. Phyllis Summers' voice called out from outside. Billy. Sally sighed. Speak of the devil. Billy opened the door. Phyllis stormed into the living room. There's a problem. Billy frowned. With what? The chancellor contract. Billy stiffened. What problem? Phyllis paced. The lawyers found a snag. Billy shook his head. That's impossible. Phyllis shrugged. It happens. Billy's eyes narrowed. This better not be a stall tactic. Phyllis smirked. You think I'm stalling. You own the company, Billy reminded her. Exactly. Billy stepped closer. So are you stabbing me in the back? Phyllis rolled her eyes. You're paranoid. Billy watched her carefully. Am I? Phyllis walked toward the door. We'll sort it out. Then she left. Billy turned toward Sally. Oh, this is bad. What are you going to do? Billy pulled out his phone. Call Jack. The call went to voicemail. Jack, I need advice, call me. Then Billy's phone buzzed again. A text message. From Victor Newman. Billy read it slowly. Come to the ranch. Sally frowned. That can't be good. Billy sighed. No, it's not. At Crimson Lights, Sharon poured coffee while Tessa sat nearby. She still won't see Arya, Sharon said sadly. Tessa sighed. Mariah isn't ready. But Arya misses her. Tessa looked conflicted. And it might confuse her. The cafe door opened. Daniel walked in. Tessa smiled. Hey. Daniel nodded. Can we talk? Sure. They moved to the patio outside. A moment later, Nick entered the cafe. Sharon gasped. Oh, Nick. She rushed to hug him. Noah and I have been worried sick. Nick smiled. I'm okay. Did you find Matt? Nick shook his head. He vanished. Sharon frowned. Just disappeared. Like he never existed. Sharon whispered. He could be hiding in plain sight. Outside, Daniel looked at Tessa. I need advice. She smiled gently. About your mom. Daniel sighed. Kane thinks I should forgive her. Tessa tilted her head. What do you have to lose? Daniel chuckled. I could ask you the same thing about Mariah. Tessa didn't answer. Instead, she stared at the table quietly. Meanwhile, Phyllis sat across from Kane again. He's on the fence, Kane said. Phyllis smiled slightly. Oh, good. But he may need help. Phyllis leaned forward. I know who. Who? Tessa. Kane raised an eyebrow. That might actually work. Phyllis checked her watch. You'd better move fast. Kane frowned. Why? I can't hold Billy off forever. Kane's expression darkened. If Billy signs that contract, we lose leverage with Victor. Phyllis nodded slowly. I know. She leaned back. Tick-tock. Kane said quietly. Give me 24 hours. Phyllis considered it. Then nodded. Fine. Back at the ranch. Victor stood near the fireplace. Send him in. The door opened. Billy Abbott walked inside. Billy smirked. Well, the Black Knight himself. Victor smiled coldly. You seem confident. Billy shrugged. I hear you think you're getting Chancellor back. Victor nodded calmly. By the end of the business day, Billy burst out laughing. You're delusional. Victor's voice turned icy. Am I? Billy stepped closer. I'm not giving it back. Victor stared at him. And if you do. He paused, then delivered the threat. Neither you nor anyone in your family will ever see Jack Abbott again. Billy's smile vanished instantly. Billy Abbott stared at Victor Newman as the threat hung in the air like a blade ready to fall. For a moment, the entire ranch seemed to go silent. Billy blinked. You're joking. Victor didn't move. His expression remained perfectly calm. Billy shook his head slowly. This is one of your intimidation games, right? Victor stepped closer. You know me better than that. Billy's stomach tightened. You're bluffing. Victor said nothing. That silence was far more terrifying than any threat. Billy's voice hardened. If you touched Jack. Victor interrupted. I didn't say I touched him. Billy clenched his fists. Where is he? Victor's eyes glinted. That depends on you. Billy let out a humorless laugh. Oh, this is insane. Victor tilted his head slightly. You wanted to play in my world, Williams. Billy took a step forward. Well, guess what? I'm not scared of you. Victor's voice dropped lower. Oh, you should be. Billy's jaw tightened. You're threatening my family. Victor replied calmly. I'm offering you a choice. Billy stared at him, rage building in his chest. What choice? Victor folded his hands behind his back. You return Chancellor. Billy shook his head. I know. Victor continued as if Billy hadn't spoken. And Jack Abbott returns home safely. Billy's voice rose. You think kidnapping people is going to make me give up the company? Victor's eyes narrowed. You're mistaken. Billy scoffed. About what? Victor leaned forward slightly. I didn't kidnap Jack. Billy froze. What? Victor straightened. But I know exactly where he is. Billy stared at him. That makes no sense. Victor simply smiled. You have until the end of the business day. Billy shook his head in disbelief. You're insane. Victor's voice was cold and final. Tick-tock, William. Billy stood there for another moment, trying to process what had just happened. Then he turned and stormed out of the ranch. The second he reached his car, he grabbed his phone. Jack pickup. Straight to voicemail. Billy's heart began pounding harder. Something was wrong. Across town at Crimson Lights, Sharon and Nick sat quietly at a small table. The cafe was calm, but the tension between them was obvious. Nick rubbed his forehead. I should have caught Matt. Sharon shook her head. Oh, you tried. Nick sighed. That guy keeps slipping through my fingers. Sharon leaned forward. What if he's closer than we think? Nick frowned. What do you mean? Sharon shrugged slightly. You said it yourself, he could be hiding in plain sight. Nick stared down at his phone. Then suddenly, it buzzed. A text message appeared. Nick's stomach dropped. Sharon noticed immediately. What is it? Nick didn't answer right away. Instead, he slowly turned the phone toward her. The message read, Sorry I missed you in LA. Sharon's eyes widened. That's from Matt Clark. Nick nodded. Oh yeah. Sharon whispered. He knows where you were. Nick's voice turned dark. That means he's watching. Outside on the patio, Daniel sat across from Tessa. The conversation had grown heavier than either of them expected. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck. Kane thinks forgiving my mom will fix everything. Tessa studied him carefully. Do you think it might? Daniel sighed. I don't know. He leaned back in his chair. She betrayed everyone. Tessa nodded slowly. Mariah hurt me too. Daniel looked at her. But you still love her. Tessa looked away. That's the problem. Daniel spoke softly. What would you do if she came back tomorrow and asked for another chance? Tessa didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stared out at the quiet street. Finally, she said, I've fought as hard as I can. Daniel waited. Her voice cracked slightly. At some point, you have to accept they might never come back. Daniel frowned. You'd really let her go? Tessa swallowed. I'd have to. Silence filled the space between them. Daniel looked down at the tables. My tough love with my mom. He shook his head. Maybe it backfired. Tessa asked gently, Are you ready to give her another chance? Daniel didn't answer, but the doubt on his face said everything. Meanwhile, the tension inside Billy's apartment had reached a breaking point. Sally watched him packing the living room. You're scaring me. Billy ran a hand through his hair. Victor says Jack is missing. Sally's eyes widened. Oh, what? He's threatening me. What did he say? Billy stopped packing. He said if I don't return Chancellor. He swallowed hard. We'll never see Jack again. Sally covered her mouth. Billy, this is serious. As I know. Billy grabbed his phone again. Still no response from Jack. Billy muttered, "Where the hell are you?" Back on the Kane train, Phyllis tapped her fingers impatiently on the table. Kane watched her carefully. "You're nervous." "I'm realistic." Phyllis checked the time again. "Billy won't wait forever." Kane nodded. "And Victor definitely won't." Phyllis sighed. "If Billy signs that contract." Kane finished the sentence. "We lose all leverage." Phyllis leaned forward. "That's why Daniel has to forgive me." Kane raised an eyebrow. "You're very confident." Phyllis smirked slightly. "Daniel still loves me." Kane studied her. "Love doesn't always win." Phyllis shrugged. "It will this time." Kane shook his head. "You sound awfully sure." Phyllis leaned back in her seat. "I know my son." Back at Crimson Lights, Nick was still staring at the message from Matt Clark. Sharon looked worried. "What are you going to do?" Nick typed quickly. Then he showed her the phone. His reply read, "Where are you?" They waited. 30 seconds. 1 minute. Then, another message appeared. Nick read it aloud. "Closer than you think." Sharon felt a chill run down her spine. Nick whispered, "He's playing games." Sharon nodded. "Oh, yes." Nick looked around the cafe slowly. Suddenly, every stranger in the room felt suspicious. Matt Clark could be anywhere. Late that afternoon, Billy returned to the Newman ranch. Victor was waiting exactly where Billy expected, standing beside the fireplace. Billy didn't bother with small talk. "Where is Jack?" Victor looked amused. "You made a decision already." Billy glared at him. "I'm not handing you Chancellor." Victor nodded slowly. "Very well." Billy stepped closer. "You're lying." Victor simply raised an eyebrow. Billy's voice rose. "You don't have Jack." Victor replied calmly. "Then why hasn't he returned your calls?" Billy froze. Victor continued quietly. "Why hasn't he contacted his family?" Billy's heart pounded harder. Victor leaned forward. "You should ask yourself that." Billy clenched his fists. "But if anything happens to him." Victor interrupted. "You know what to do." Billy stared at him for several seconds. Then he turned and stormed out again. Victor watched him leave. A faint smile crossed his face. At the same moment, across town, Jack Abbott slowly opened his eyes. The room was dark, cold, unfamiliar. He tried to sit up. Pain shot through his head. "Where am I?" No answer. Jack looked around. He was alone. Completely alone. And the realization hit him all at once. Someone had taken him. As night began to fall over Genoa City, every player in the unfolding drama felt the pressure closing in. Daniel sat quietly outside Crimson Lights, still wrestling with the impossible decision about his mother. Nick and Sharon searched for any clue about Matt Clark's location. Billy raced across town, trying desperately to figure out if Victor's threat was real. And somewhere in the shadows, Jack Abbott waited, unaware of who had taken him or why. But one thing was certain. The storm Victor predicted was coming. And when it hit Genoa City, no one would be safe.